Hey there, Scorpio. Welcome to your reading for the week of November 1st. This week we're going to jump right in here, Scorpio, and we are going to see what is coming up for you at this time. Also, at the end, we're going to pull three yes or no question cards. If you have questions, I'll give you time to pause the video. If you don't, we'll take this as well, this lover's popping out. If you don't, I'm just going to put all three cards together, and it'll just be like one thing here, Scorpio. But let's see what is going on for you at this time. It wouldn't surprise me if some of you were like moving or going on some sort of adventure. You have this To the Sea card here, and you have the Two of Swords and the Knight of Wands here. The Two of Swords can just represent, she could be going to this new island that is behind her here on this card. And the Knight of Wands is a card of adventure. You also have the Four of Wands as well, which can represent a change. It's like these people here, they're on the other side of a portal. The Four of Wands is kind of like a portal or a threshold that you have to cross through and to get to the other side, to get to those people that are celebrating. I kind of am like intuitively feeling that this reading is saying just that. Like I feel like this reading is talking about a portal, or like more I wouldn't even call it a portal. I would call it more of a threshold. Like there's a certain certain barrier. It doesn't even have to be a barrier. I think you just have to make a decision to cross through, and it's going to lead to success for you here, Scorpio. It's a pretty good reading. You have the Four of Wands, the the King of Cups, and the Justice card here. If you're looking for love, this looks really good. Again, Four of Wands is a card of marriage. Doesn't mean you will get married. It could just be a commitment as well. Not everybody wants to get married, right? So it could just be a deep commitment with a person here. And it could be another water sign here, obviously. Could be any sign. You have pretty much everything here. But water, fire, air, pretty much stands out to me here. So it could be any one of those signs. Could be any sign in general. But I'm dropping a lot of cards today, Scorpio, and what I would say here is that I feel like there will be like a strong emotional connection with this person, like a lot of attraction, Ace of Wands, but also probably there's a lot of water going on here. Moon, the Ace of Wands, there's water, I'll show you in just a second. King of Cups, Two of Swords, so I feel like there's like a strong emotional connection with a person. You do have the Justice card here, and I feel that it will probably be a very balanced situation as well, again, if you're getting in something new. For others, if you're trying to cross like a threshold, or if there is a certain, if there's something you're trying to accomplish, the Justice card is cause and effect. It just says, move towards what works. If you put energy into something with the Justice card, do you get energy back, or do you get something back from what you're working on, is basically what the Justice card says. With the Four of Wands here, you have the Four of Cups. I do feel like some of you could have a lot of questions about love. I feel like a lot of people have questions about love in general, mostly because I feel like there is like a significant change happening in love in general as well, probably between now and like 2025, 2026. That doesn't mean it can't happen now, by the way, Scorpio. I'm just saying that we'll probably see it more on a global scale. Like once we get to 2025, 2026, I think that our values are changing. I'm cheating because if we just look at the astrology, it's pretty obvious. I mean, Uranus and Taurus, major value changes and things like that. What people see as valuable is changing. The value that people create is changing in the first place as well with this. So that's kind of how I see it. That's like one of the things that I see going on. Also, Neptune and Pisces. I talk about this all the time because to me it changes. It like challenges traditional beliefs. Like a traditional belief could be anything. Like whatever you have believed traditionally, or whatever your family believes, right? So these things are changing, and I think that we're going to see relationships change. That's one thing that will be changing. There are a lot of changes that we're going through right now. And for you, it's like Four of Cups could say you've had a lot of negative experiences in love, or just things haven't worked out how you want them to. Four of Wands to me is saying that is changing. Like you can choose to have this celebration, right? The whole deal with the Four of Wands is that you're on this side of the Four of Wands. You're not on this side. You're not over here celebrating with those people. They're like saying, hey, come over here. We're having a party. Like, what are you doing over there, right? So to me, the Four of Wands is kind of a choice. In this first row here, or the first, whatever you want to call this, row, column, whatever, I don't care. You have the Lovers, which is like a choice, being at a crossroads. So it's kind of like you have a choice of being where you are or making some sort of change. And that's kind of how I see this first row. With the King of Cups, you have the Five of Cups. Yeah, needing to turn around. I feel like this first row is very simple. What's popping into my head is you just need to see that there's another way of doing things, I always talk about how I always get tons of comments from people that tell me that everybody cheats. Men, women, everything in between, right? Everybody always tells me, oh, everybody cheats on me and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I know plenty of people that have been together forever that have never cheated, right? So it's like that invalidates your belief system right there, right? So it's like if something else exists as a possibility, it's like you just need to step into that possibility. And that's what I feel like this reading is saying. And not just in love as well. It's like there could be other beliefs. There could be beliefs you have about money. There could be beliefs you have about health or whatever. And I kind of feel like this is just asking you to see that there is another way. Five of Cups just says turn around. When you turn around, not only do you get the two cups, but you also get the bridge that leads to the castle. The thing about the castle is that castles in the tarot are something that's permanent. There's something that represent, safety, security, comfort, protection, as I always say. And they can kind of represent an accomplishment as well. So for a lot of you, it's like if you turn around and you see that there's another way of doing things in, whatever area of your life you're trying to improve, you'll find a lot of success here. With the Justice card, you have the Knight of Swords. Knight of Swords says, like, do not make hasty decisions. Do not rush, right? It also says, like, again, I would be careful where you're putting your energy with the Justice card, because justice is cause and effect. Like I always say to those people that are always like, everybody cheats. I'm like, well, you're putting the energy into that. You're, like, saying that everybody cheats, so you're just attracting everybody who cheats. If you start saying, people are good to me and don't cheat, then, that's what you'll start to attract. So make sure you're feeding, the right side of the scale here with the Justice card is what I would say. Next, you have the Panther Spirit. It says, reclaim your power. I definitely feel that a lot of you could be doing that here with this energy, because, again, it's like you're stepping through a threshold here. When we do that, it's like whenever we step through a threshold like this, like the Four of Wands, we set a new standard for our life. It's like it's like we cross through that threshold, we're not going to go backwards. We're not going to start accepting less once we make this change. And that's kind of like, that's more what I feel like is going on here. It's like you're setting a new standard for your life, and because of that, you're going to be living at a new level. It's like, that's why I always say, I watched this guy years ago. I can't find him for the life of me. I don't even remember his name, but, he changed my life. So thank you to whoever this person was. But I'll try to find it, because I've been looking for it for years on YouTube. It was a video I watched. It was like an interview. And but anyway, in this interview, the guy was talking about setting standards, not goals. That like blew my mind, because I've never been like big into goals. I think the whole goal thing, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with having something to work towards, but it's like you reach a goal, then what? What happens after that? It's like, it's kind of like an end point, but it's like we don't just end in life until we die, right? So I've never been behind the whole goal thing. And I think standards is a better way to live, because if it's like if you set a standard that your standard is that you make a certain amount of money, then it kind of leaves the door open, because it's like you could do that anyway. You could, there are a million different possibilities for how you can make that much money, right? People set a goal sometimes, they're like, I'm going to make $1 million by starting this business. But it's like, what if the universe wants you to do it some other way? What if the universe wants you to make $1 million by going on some badass, awesome treasure hunt, and you find like a bunch of gold or something like that? It's like, that's like a better story and a lot more fun than being like, oh, I had a career and I saved all my money and now I'm like 65 and I get to enjoy all this money that I saved, instead of like having a cool adventure story, right? I don't know what that rant was all about, Scorpio. The point is, I feel like things are about to get a lot more exciting because of these standards that you're setting, and I think that's like the main takeaway here. You have the Ace of Wands. Ace of Wands makes perfect sense with everything I just said, because Ace of Wands is like your desire. It's like I always tell people always ask me about career. I'm like, yeah, but do you really like, is it really your desire to like wake up at, 5 o'clock in the morning, get ready, get in your car, sit in 2 hours of traffic so that you can get to your career? Is that like really your desire? Do people really want careers? I would say no. I think for the most part, most people don't really want a career necessarily. Some people, I'm sure there are plenty of you that are perfectly happy in your career and doing what you're doing, right? So I'm not discounting that at all. But, and again, you probably truly desire to do it. And that's what the Ace of Wands is about. If that's what you truly desire to do, then do it. But if not, the Ace of Wands says there's probably something where that you truly desire to do. Knight of Wands. Knight of Wands, he moves towards his joy. He moves towards his happiness or something that can make him happy. I think that there are certain times where it's like you're not going to be 100% happy with what you're doing, right? Maybe you're just like, 80% happy. You're going to have your moments, right? Nothing's perfect. But there's probably something that is a major improvement over what you're doing right now. Some of you, I feel like, are already doing the improvement. I feel like you're already in the, working on the improvement in general, is what I'm trying to say. Some of you I don't think are quite there yet, and I feel like that's what this reclaiming your power is about. The other thing to realize is it's like, yeah, sometimes we have to have a career. Sometimes we have no choice. We have to make money to survive in this 3D world, right? But there are things we can do, maybe, to improve upon it, right? You might be in one of those situations where you kind of are maybe a little bit stuck in your career, and maybe you can't quit, which is totally fine, right? Maybe you need to start looking at ways to improve it, right? Two of Swords, she's sitting where she's always been, but it's a card of compromise, and not only that, she could take her blindfold off, she could turn around, she would see these new lands behind her, and she could see that she probably has a lot more options than she realizes, and that's popping into my head for some of you. It's like, maybe you can't change your circumstances like 100%, but there are probably things that you can do to renegotiate or to change your current circumstances as well. It's like years ago, I was doing a reading. I remember this like it was yesterday, Scorpio. I was doing a reading for Capricorn, actually. And I was saying something in that reading about how I'm like, you don't have to, I was saying something like this, where I was like, you don't have to stay stuck doing what you're doing. Maybe you're really good at something, and you could go to your boss and you could say like, hey, you have me doing all this like extra stuff, but I'm really good at doing this one skill. Why don't you pay me to just double down on what I'm good at? And someone wrote to me after I said that. It was like months later, and they said, hey, you told me months ago to do this, and I did it, and now I have like my dream job, right? I kind of get those same vibes for you here, Scorpio, where it's kind of like, maybe your job isn't perfect. Maybe there's something you're really good at, but you're not doing it. And it's like you could negotiate. Two of Swords, it's a card of coming to a compromise, a meeting in the middle, or something like that. So I kind of feel that for you here. Same thing in love as well. It's like maybe you're in a relationship and it's pretty good. I think people, one of the things is, I think people need to realize it's like you're not always going to be like in love with your partner. It's not going to be like that initial, head over heels and love thing, right? We have to work to keep the romance alive. I think today that's a problem with modern relationships is people don't put in the work to do it. I think there are other problems that I have with modern relationships as well, but that's just one of them, right? And so I feel like here, maybe you are realizing that. Maybe you are realizing like, hey, I'm falling out of love with my partner. I better put in some work. Because again, if you're with a good person, I think it's totally worth staying and fixing and keeping the romance alive instead of leaving and trying to, get out onto these streets. Because trust me, it is a disaster zone out here as far as dating is concerned. So if you're in something good, I would do whatever you can to fix it. With the Ace of Wands here, you have the Seven of Swords here. Seven of Swords can be lying, cheating, stealing, but it doesn't have to be. To me, Seven of Swords can represent handling a situation with care. He is holding these swords by their tips. He's stealing those swords from an army that's in the background so that the swords cannot be used against him in battle the next day. But basically, it kind of represents handling something with care. It can also try to represent, it can be representing the fact that he's like trying to make something perfect, but he can't because he still has these two swords behind him. He can't carry all the swords, right? And so it is a card of working on a team. He represents a lone wolf. And that was popping into my head here, especially in love. Like some of you could be feeling alone, and again, I'm not discounting that. You could be feeling like your partner isn't there for you or whatever. But again, I would communicate these things to your partner. Sometimes I think, again, sometimes maybe we have certain feelings. I've done it. Again, I'm not picking on you here. I've done it in relationships where it's like I feel a certain way, but I could also have made the choice to open my mouth and said something, right? But I feel like we're afraid to open our mouth sometimes. Maybe we're like afraid the person's going to leave us, or the person is going to judge us if we say something that we need in the relationship, right? And so, like I said, I've been there, not picking on you here, Scorpio, but what I would say here is I would open up, with a person. It's like you're not in it alone. You're supposed to be a team. So for those of you in a relationship, that's what I'm getting. Two of Swords, mystery. You have the High Priestess here. So the High Priestess can represent mystery. It also kind of, again, to me, the B and the J here on the pillars kind of represents the fact that she's in the middle ground. And it's funny, I was just saying to someone the other day that they were asking about the B and the J, and I was saying they kind of represent the dark and the light inside of her as well. We all have darkness, we all have light inside of us, and it's not about eliminating one or the other. It's not about being more light. It's not about being less dark or anything like that. She is integrated. She represents an integrated being. She is both light and dark, and she knows when to use them appropriately. People, always ask me, like, how is it a good thing to have darkness inside of you? I'm like, well, and this person that I explained this to, I was like saying, the thing about darkness inside of us is it's like there's no honor in being a victim, right? So it's like if someone comes and attacks her, she has her dark side. She will chop their head off with a sword, right? So it's kind of like one of those things. It's like if someone is coming to attack you, then there is definitely a certain level of darkness that you are going to need to survive, right? And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying she integrates both things inside of her. She understands that she might have to go dark side. She might have to start chopping heads, right? She also understands that she can be kind, caring, and compassionate. She knows when to use which energy at the right time and how much as well, right? And that's popping into my head for you, especially with the Two of Swords sitting in the middle. It's like, the Two of Swords sitting in the middle, you could say the same thing about her, right? She kind of, it has those swords crossed over her chest, and she understands like when to use which energy when. With the Knight of Wands here, you have the Six of Swords. I definitely feel like you're moving on to calmer shores. I feel like there are major improvements here. Like I said, pretty good reading, so that makes sense. Here at the end, you have the Great and Full card. This card always reminds me of the Ace of Cups. So again, like I said, some of you could definitely be dealing with love. You have the Lovers right here. I would just say focus on being grateful. Five of Cups is about being grateful for what you have. Once you are grateful for what you have, then you get the bridge and the castle. So, that's why this is important, because you get the bridge and the castle when you're grateful for what you have with this energy. You have the Moon, the Lovers, the Nine of Wands, and the Seven of Wands here, Scorpio. If you have new love coming in, could be a Pisces, by the way. You have Scorpio. You have the High Priestess and the Moon here, so definitely could be a Pisces. Could be any sign. Could be a Gemini as well. You also have Libra here, or a fire sign. So there could be love coming in for you. I feel like you're going to have to go down the path here. It's like a little bit mysterious. I feel like this love that could be coming into your life. The Moon, High Priestess. With the High Priestess, it's kind of like we have to see what is behind her tapestry there. It's like, it kind of represents a mystery. It also represents like a very thin veil. The tapestry behind her is meant to look like something very thin. Sometimes I think that, again, just like I was saying with this threshold, we have to kind of go through something. We have to push through a veil to experience something. And I'm getting that here with the Moon. The veil could be like being open with a person, being vulnerable with a person, having a certain experience with a person, especially if this is love. It's like maybe there's a certain point you get to in relationships where you close down. So it's like to experience this fully, you're going to have to get past whatever that point is. Same thing in business or work as well. I've said this before. Sometimes I think we have this mindset where we think I'm only worth X, Y, and Z. So then when we start making more in work, we freak out. Or we run away from opportunities that could be very good for us. So I feel like this is kind of like saying you have to experience the mystery. You have to, push through the veil, basically, to be more successful at this time. Definitely could be love. You have the Nine of Wands, setting healthy boundaries, but again, being open, needing to be open with the Nine of Wands. Nine of Wands kind of tells me you're willing to give something one last shot. And Seven of Wands, boundaries. but again, I would open up here with the Seven of Wands. Seven of Wands, again, perfectly illustrates what I was saying about the standards, about not going back with the Four of Wands. He's defending his position at the top of a hill, but he'll never go back down the hill. So I feel like a lot of you are kind of living your standards, if that makes sense, Scorpio. And this is a good thing. I think, this to me is a very, mature thing to do, whatever you're doing here. With the Moon and the Lovers, you have the Six of Pentacles. Equal give and take is what I would say here. I would also say make sure you're not ignoring something. That popped into my head wherever I was, over here or something, where I was talking about how, I've done it in relationships where I've needed something, something from my partner or whatever, and I don't open my mouth. I don't say it, right? Six of Pentacles says, do not ignore something inside of you, It's like he's ignoring this person over here. All three people on this card, if it wants to focus, Scorpio, if it wants to focus, all three people could just be aspects of himself. And so it's like there could be something that you're ignoring, and this says like don't ignore it. And in a relationship, open up, right? Same thing in work. With the Nine of Wands, you have the Devil. I would definitely, cut off any toxic behavior right away. Some of you could be dealing with a person from the past, and again, I would set those boundaries against the past. I feel like kind of some of you could just be thinking about past things in the past, past things that were toxic, and it's like maybe a new person is displaying those traits. Again, I would just talk about it. Seven of Wands, you have the Two of Wands here. Definitely, I feel like you're making a significant change. Two of Wands, like, leaving a comfort zone. Something behind him is complete, and he's reaching forward to the other wand. He's like moving forward here. So definitely a lot of forward movement here. This is a really good reading, Scorpio. And like I would call this like a maturing reading or whatever you want to call it, because again, I feel like you're kind of like becoming more, it's like you're doing things that are making you more mature in a lot of ways. It's like you're growing, and again, you're setting these new standards, which is going to be very important. We're going to pull 3 yes or no question cards, Scorpio. We're going to do 1, 2, and 3. Feel free to pause this reading if you need time to think of your questions. If you don't have questions, that's fine. I'm just going to put them all together. But for question number 1, you have the King of Swords. I would say yes. I feel yes here. I feel very direct, straightforward, kind of energy off of this. So yes. For question number 2, I would also say yes, Emperor. I would say stick to the plan. And for question number 3, I would say no. 3 of Swords, heartbreak. So no. I feel that putting this all together, I feel like you need to like focus on again, if we look at this here, Knight of Swords, Justice card here, Devil, 2 of Swords, High Priestess, 7 of Swords. We could look at that as lying, but we could also look at it as the opposite. We could look at this as just needing to be very open, direct, and honest. Again, especially for those of you that are meeting a person here, I would be very direct, open, and honest in the relationship or with your expectations or whatever, because I feel like that will just lead to a successful relationship. Again, especially if you're getting in something new. It's like you're laying the foundation. So it's like, I would lay that foundation as smoothly as possible by being, open about your expectations or whatever. And same thing in work or business. What I would say here is like I would stick to a plan, and I feel like you need to kind of more like push your standards, like I was saying with this 4 of Wands. And this could be in business as well. It's like maybe you have a certain standard that you make a certain amount of money. Maybe it's time that you raise that standard and you start making more money, because it'll just make you more successful. But again, I think the other thing here is that like when we raise our standards like that, it kind of has like a spillover effect where it's like maybe we say, okay, I'm gonna make this much money. Well, to do that, it's like maybe you're gonna have to make your product better. Maybe you're gonna have to improve your website or something like that. So it's like when we raise our standards, everything else kind of gets bumped up with it, and it's just gonna lead to major improvements. I love this reading for you, Scorpio. It's gonna require work. It's like raising your standards. It requires work, but it's going to make your life so much better that it's going to be worth it. So, damn, Scorpio, I love this reading. Really good. So, thank you for being here, Scorpio. Really appreciate it. And definitely watch your sun, moon, and rising for a full picture of what's going on for you at this time. But thank you, and definitely enjoy your week.